Hi students, welcome back to GDC classes. This is another class of the RRB Tejas series. In this session, we will try to solve MCQs on the topics reproductive system and the digestive system. So let us start the session. Let us move on to the questions. Name the longest part of the alimentary canal. The options are large intestine, small intestine, liver and stomach. So what is the longest part of the digestive tract or the alimentary canal? It is small intestine. So don't get confused here. The large intestine necessarily it is not the longest part of the digestive tract. The small intestine is the longest part, even though the large intestine it is the large one, but the longest part is the small intestine. So small intestine is the longest part of the alimentary canal. It is narrower than the large intestine but forms the longest section of the digestive tube or the digestive tract. So the small intestine is narrow than the large intestine but it is the longest part as it is divided into three parts. The duodenum, okay, this is the duodenum here. Then comes the jejunum and then the ileum. So duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. It is divided into three parts. So these structures here. This is the small intestine, and here this is the large intestine here. So what is the order? The food from the mouth it will enter into the pharynx, and then into the esophagus. From the esophagus it will enter into the stomach. From the stomach it will enter into the small intestine, then into the large intestine, and then into the rectum. So this is the order. The length of the small intestine it is about 6.7 meters, which is 3.5 times the length of the human body. So it is 6.7 meters in length. So the small intestine is the longest part of the alimentary canal. Now moving on to the next question. The food that enters the intestine from the stomach is called. The options are chyme, fundus, chyle, or bolus. What is the answer? It is chyme. So when we eat food, the teeth they will help in the crushing and grinding of the food. So the process of crushing and grinding of the food into smaller particles with the help of the teeth is known as mastication. Okay, we will masticate the food in the mouth with the help of the teeth. And as a result of mastication, a small ball-like, soft ball-like structure will be formed of the food. So that is known as bolus. So the bolus will be swallowed into the esophagus, and when that bolus when it enters the stomach, the food when it enters the stomach, it will be mixed with all the hydrochloric acid, different enzymes, and the stomach it will perform churning movements. That means the muscular wall of the stomach it will contract and relax. Those are known as churning movements, and these churning movements they will partially digest the food. Okay, they will convert the food into chyme. So partially digested food mixed with the hydrochloric acid and other enzymes is known as the chyme. So here when the food enters the stomach, the fluids and the enzymes secreted in the stomach will be mixed with the food, and the because of the churning movements of the stomach, the food will be partially digested. That partially digested food is known as chyme. So once the chyme is formed in the stomach, it will enter the small intestine. So unless the chyme is not formed, the small intestine, the entry to the small intestine will not be given. So only after the formation of chyme, the food can enter the small intestine. Now, next question. Correct sequence of embryo development. So these are the different stages of embryo development. We have to identify the correct sequence. The first one is zygote, morula, blastula, and gastrula. The other one zygote, blastula, morula, and gastrula. Then gamete, neurula, gastrula. gamete, neurula, morula. So what is the correct sequence here? It is the first one: zygote, morula, blastula, and gastrula. So when the ovum comes in contact with the sperm, so when the sperm when it comes in contact with the ovum, the fertilization will happen, and as a result zygote will be formed. This zygote, it will undergo cell divisions. Okay, it undergoes cell divisions and it forms morula. Morula will undergo blastulation, which is a process of cell division, and it forms blastula. Blastula undergoes blastulation and it forms gastrula. Okay, then this gastrula is the stage where the germ layers will be formed. Okay, during gastrulation, germ layers like the ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, so these germ layers will be formed in the gastrula, and eventually the embryo will be developed, different organs will be developed. So these are the stages: first the gastrula, morula, blastula, and then the gastrula, at last the embryo. So these are the correct sequence of embryo development. Moving on to the next question: what is the correct surgical method for preventing pregnancy in which the vas deferens is cut out? So the sperms are required for the fertilization of the ovum, right? The sperms are produced within the testes of the male reproductive system. From the testes, they will pass into the epididymis, and from the epididymis, they will be passed into the vas deferens, and from the vas deferens to the urethra, and from the urethra of the male reproductive system to the female reproductive tract. So when what is the name that we give if we cut out the vas deferens? So what is the term we use? Is it ovariectomy, tubectomy, vasectomy, or castration? So what is the term? Vasectomy. So if we cut out the vas deferens, so here I'll show you. So here, this is the vas deferens. If we cut out the vas deferens, then that procedure is known as vasectomy. If we cut it out, then the sperms cannot be transported from the testis to the urethra. And this method is, this method is performed when there is a need to prevent the pregnancy. The other options, what is tubectomy? Tubectomy means cutting of the fallopian tube. So from the ovaries, so here these are the ovaries, right? From in the ovaries, ovum will be produced, and from the ovaries, it will be transported through the fallopian tube into the uterus. Okay, so in order to prevent this, the fallopian tube is cut out so that the ovum cannot be transported into the uterus and fertilization cannot occur. So these are the procedures which are performed to prevent the pregnancy. And ovariectomy is a process in which the ovaries, they are removed. One ovary or both the ovaries are removed. And castration is a process in which either the testes or the ovaries are removed to prevent pregnancy and also to prevent the production of sex hormones. Now coming to the next question: which cells produce insulin? So insulin is a hormone which will control the glucose levels in our blood. And what cells produce the insulin? Alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, or F cells? So the answer is, it is the beta cells. So the pancreas, it is a gland. Okay, pancreas is a heterocrine gland. It performs both exocrine and endocrine functions. The exocrine part will secrete enzymes and different digestive juices into the digestive tract, whereas the endocrine part of the pancreas, it has islets of Langerhans, and which is composed of different cells like the alpha cells, beta cells, F cells, D cells. These different kinds of cells will secrete a different hormone. Alpha cells, beta cells, here beta cells, they are secreting the insulin, which will help in lowering the glucose levels in the blood. Alpha cells secrete a hormone called glucagon, which will help to raise the glucose levels in the blood. So when there is a rise in the glucose levels, the insulin hormone will be released from the pancreas, and the hormone will, what the insulin will do, the insulin will try to send the glucose into different tissues like the skeletal muscles, like and the liver, so that the glucose levels in the blood will be reduced. And what the glucagon will do, glucagon will try to increase the glucose levels in the blood. So whenever there is a fall in the glucose levels, so it will cause the glycogen to be broken down into glucose, and that glucose will be released into the blood. Now the delta cells release a hormone called somatostatin, which inhibits the growth hormone release from the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland releases the growth hormone, so which will which will help or which will promote the bone growth or muscle growth. And somatostatin is released by the delta cells of the pancreas, which will inhibit the release of growth hormone from the pituitary gland. And PP cells, they secrete pancreatic peptide, which regulates the digestive secretion and motility. So motility means it is the peristaltic movements that the digestive tract performs in order to move the food from one part of the system to the other part. So if the peristaltic movements are reduced, the passage of the food in the digestive tract will be slowed down. And it also regulates the digestive secretions. So secretions are received in the stomach, some enzymes are secreted in the small intestine, some enzymes are secreted, and also from the pancreas some enzymes are released into the digestive tract. So these and all are controlled by the pancreatic peptide released by the PP cells. And epsilon cells release a hormone called ghrelin, which is an orexigenic hormone. That means it will stimulate the appetite. So it will stimulate the hunger in a person. So this is about the different cells, okay, of the pancreas. Now coming to other question, the enzymes present in the pancreatic juice are. So the pancreas release the pancreatic juice. What are all the enzymes present in that particular juice? Amylase, trypsinogen, peptidase, renin, or trypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, pancreatic lipase, peptidase, pepsin, amylase, renin, or maltase, amylase, trypsinogen, and renin. Sorry, pepsin. What is the correct option? It is trypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, and pancreatic lipase. So obviously, right, the amylase enzyme, it is not present in the pancreatic juice. So in all the three other options, the amylase enzyme is there. And also the pepsin is also not secreted or present in the pancreatic juice. The trypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, and pancreatic lipase. These are the enzymes present in the pancreatic juice. Trypsin and chymotrypsinogen, they act upon proteins and they break down the proteins into smaller peptide chains. Pancreatic lipase break down the fats. So fats are present in the form of triglycerides. So they will divide or break down the fats into monoglycerides and free fatty acids. Pancreatic amylase, it break down the carbohydrates like the maltose, sucrose, fructose, whatever. Carboxypeptidase, it break downs the proteins, again the proteins. Nucleases will break down the nucleic acid. So the correct option is trypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, and the pancreatic lipase. Now the next question: complete digestion of food occurs in. So in which part of the digestive tract the food will be completely digested? Is it the stomach, ileum, pancreas, or the large intestine? The option is ileum. So ileum is a part of the small intestine. So what are the parts of the small intestine? The duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. So in the stomach, chyme will be formed, and the chyme will enter into the small intestine. In the small intestine, most of the digestion will takes place, and as it moves from the duodenum to jejunum and jejunum to ileum, the digestion will be almost completed. And when the food enters the large intestine, there will not be any digestion process. If any water, electrolytes, any minerals are left in the food, they will be absorbed. And also if there are any microorganisms or any other microbes present in the food, they will be destroyed in the small intestine. So almost the digestion process will be completed within the small intestine itself. So as it comes to the ileum, the food comes to the ileum, the digestion would be completed. So ileum, the process of sperm production takes place in which part of the male reproductive system? Epididymis, vas deferens, prostate glands, or seminiferous tubules. So where the sperm is produced, it is in the seminiferous tubules. So the testis, so this is the structure of the testis, right? This is the testis, this is the penis, right? Within the testis, a number of seminiferous tubules are present. Within those seminiferous tubules, sperms are produced, and from there they will be passed into the epididymis, and from the epididymis to vas deferens, so on. Sperm production takes place in the seminiferous tubules, and then they will reach the epididymis. Now, which of the following is incorrectly matched regarding the female reproductive organs? So, ovaries, eggs and sex hormones are produced. Oviducts serve as the site of fertilization. Uterus serve as the birth canal, and cervix contains opening to the embryo or fetus. So we have to identify the incorrectly matched option. So here the answer is uterus. Uterus, it doesn't serve as a birth canal. It serves as a site for the attachment of the zygote. So after the fertilization process, zygote will be formed, and this zygote, it gets itself attached to the endometrium of the uterus. And as you know, ovaries will produce ovum, that is the eggs, and also they will produce hormones like estrogen. Oviducts means the fallopian tubules. Fallopian tubules, they will serve as a site for the fertilization. So when the ovaries release the ovum, it will enter the fallopian tube, and the sperm will pass on to the fallopian tube, and there the fertilization will happen in the fallopian tube. And after the fertilization, after the zygote is formed, the zygote will attach itself to the uterus. Coming to the cervix, it is open during the labor to allow the baby to pass through the birth canal. So cervix is a portion which will attach the uterus to the vagina. And vagina is also known as the birth canal. So here, what is the birth canal? The vagina, it is the birth canal which acts as a channel for the delivery of the baby. So ovaries will produce eggs and hormones. Oviducts, like the fallopian tubes, they act as a site of fertilization. Uterus act as a site for the attachment of the zygote. Cervix is a small opening which allow the baby to pass, and vagina, it is the birth canal. So during the delivery, it allows the baby to pass to the outside of the body. Now next question, the portions of the small intestine in the anatomical order. So the correct sequence of small intestine portions, you know, right? The answer is duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. So duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Next question, what is the inner lining of the uterus called? Options: cervix, oviduct, myometrium, or endometrium. So the uterus, it is made up of three layers, and among these three layers, what is the innermost layer? It is the endometrium. So the outermost layer is the perimetrium, then the middle layer is myometrium, and then the innermost layer endometrium. So endometrium is the layer which will be shredded off and will be released to the outside in the form of blood. So during menstruation, the endometrium layer will be shredded off, and again it will be regenerated. So endometrium is the inner lining of the, so this layer, it is the inner lining of the uterus. Food and chyme are pushed through the digestive system by ingestion, mastication, assimilation, or peristalsis. So what is the process through which the food is passed through different parts of the digestive tract? The answer is peristalsis. So ingestion means eating, swallowing. That is known as ingestion. So taking of the food, it is ingestion. Mastication means, I have told you earlier, it is the chewing and grinding of the food by the teeth to form the bolus. It is known as mastication. Assimilation means it is the entry of all the nutrients, minerals, etc., from the food into the bloodstream. That is known as the assimilation, and from the bloodstream to various organs. Peristalsis means it is the alternative contraction and relaxation of the smooth muscles of the digestive tract in order to push or pass the food from one part of the digestive tract to another part. So peristalsis, the smooth muscles will undergo peristalsis so that the food can be passed through the digestive tract. And also these peristaltic movements, they will help in mixing the food with the digestive enzymes and other digestive fluids. Next question: which of the following secretions is not produced by the gastric glands? So gastric glands, they are present within the stomach. So among these, what are the secretions that are not produced by the gastric glands? Hydrochloric acid, pepsin, sebum, renin. So the answer is sebum. So sebum is not produced, within the stomach or by the gastric glands. Sebum is, oil-like substance which is produced by the sebaceous glands present within the skin layer. Okay, and coming to the gastric glands, there are different types of gastric glands, like the chief cells, mucus cells, parietal cells. So these cells will secrete different enzymes and different fluids into the stomach. For example, the parietal cells, they secrete in Cassell's intrinsic factor, hydrochloric acid into the stomach. And also the chief cells, they secrete renin, pepsinogen, lipase, enzymes. These are the enzymes that will be secreted into the stomach. So here they have given pepsin, renin, hydrochloric acid, lipase, intrinsic factor. These and all are secreted by the gastric glands of the stomach. Now coming to the next question: which of the following digestive enzymes is found in the small intestine? So what is the enzyme that is produced within the small intestine? Enterokinase, trypsin, nucleases, and pancreatic amylase. The answer is enterokinase. So this enterokinase, it is an enzyme which is secreted by the glands present within the small intestine. And what is the function of enterokinase? It converts trypsinogen of the pancreatic juice into trypsin. So this trypsinogen, it is present in the pancreatic juice. Trypsinogen is an inactive form of enzyme. So this have to be converted into its active form, which is the trypsin. So for this, the enterokinase enzyme will be helping. Okay, it converts the chymotrypsinogen into trypsin. And erypsin is an enzyme which converts polypeptides into amino acids. And sucrase, maltase, these are the enzymes which will digest the carbohydrates. So these and all we have discussed earlier, right? The nucleases, these are also, so nucleases it is present in the pancreatic juice, which will help in digesting the nucleic acids. And trypsin is the active form of chymotrypsinogen enzyme, which is present within the pancreatic juice. And also the pancreatic amylase, it is also a carbohydrate digesting enzyme. So the enzyme produced within the small intestine is enterokinase. Next question: corpus luteum develops under the influence of which hormone? So corpus luteum, it is a structure which is formed from the cells of Graafian follicle. So when the Graafian follicle, when it becomes fully matured, it will release the oocyte into the fallopian tube. And after the oocyte is released, the remaining cells of the Graafian follicle, they will develop into the corpus luteum. So under the influence of what hormone this corpus luteum is formed? Is it the progesterone or estrogen follicle stimulating hormone or luteinizing hormone. So what is the answer? It is the luteinizing hormone. In the presence of the luteinizing hormone is released by the pituitary gland, particularly the anterior pituitary, along with the follicle stimulating hormone. So in the presence of the luteinizing hormone, the Graafian follicles, they will be converted to corpus luteum. So here are the hormones. The anterior pituitary releases the FSH and LH. Follicle stimulating hormone, it stimulates the follicular growth in the ovaries. So from the oogonium, the primary primordial follicle will be formed, then the primary follicle, secondary follicle, then the Graafian follicle. So this development, it will be influenced by the FSH hormone, and also it stimulates the estrogen secretion. So estrogen is a sex hormone which is released by the developing follicles. LH will causes ovulation. That means it causes the ovum to be released into the small intestine from the Graafian follicle, and also it will help in the formation of corpus luteum. Now the ovaries release two types of sex hormones, the estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen will help in thickening the uterine lining, that is the endometrium. So if the estrogen, it will thicken the endometrial lining so that the zygote can come and attach itself to the endometrium, and also it inhibits FSH and LH for most of the cycle. So once the ovum is released into the fallopian tube, there is no need for the estrogen, and also the there is no need for the estrogen enzyme. So this estrogen, it will inhibit the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. Progesterone, it also thickens the uterine lining, and it also inhibits the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone release. So this is about the different hormones of the female reproductive system. Now the next question, an important function of the intestinal villi is to. So what is the function of the villi present in the intestine? So villi are small finger-like structures present within the small intestine. So what is the function of this villi? To increase the surface area for absorption of nutrients, or to move the chyme along the alimentary tract, to form a protective covering for the alimentary tract, or to synthesize amino acids. So what is the answer? It is the increasing the surface area for absorption of nutrients. So it is the primary function of the villi. So these are the villi present within the small intestine. Within the villi, epithelial cells and blood capillaries, also lymphatic capillaries called lacteals, they will be present. So when the food is digested, the nutrients will be absorbed into the blood capillaries or the lymphatic capillaries present within the villi. So the primary function of the villi is to increase the surface area for the absorption of nutrients from the food. Next question, this is not an enzyme of the digestive system. So following among the following options, one enzyme is not a part of the digestive system. What is that? Amylase. So salivary amylase, it is produced in the mouth. Pepsin produced in the stomach. Aldosterone produced in the pancreas, or pancreatic lipase produced in the pancreas. So what is the answer? It is aldosterone. So amylase, salivary amylase it is an enzyme which is produced within the mouth. So saliva contains the salivary amylase which will partially digest the starch present in the food. Whereas pepsin, it is produced by the chief cells of the stomach. And aldosterone, it is not a digestive enzyme. It is a mineralocorticoid produced by the adrenal cortex, the adrenal gland. So this aldosterone, it will influence the the absorption that is taking place in the nephrons of the kidney. So this hormone doesn't have any role in the digestion process. Whereas the pancreatic lipase, it will help in the digestion of lipids, the triglycerides. So the answer here is aldosterone. It is well known to increase the sodium reabsorption and potassium secretion by the kidney. So within the kidney, nephrons are present, right? And within the nephrons, the aldosterone will influence the absorption of sodium. So within the nephron, tubules are present, right? Nephron tubules are present. There it will influence the reabsorption of sodium into the bloodstream and secretion of potassium into the tubules. And it is released, it is a mineralocorticoid which is released by the adrenal glands. Now this food component is affected if the stomach pH is 7. So what is that? Glucose, starch, sucrose or protein. So what is the food component that is affected if the stomach pH becomes neutral? So pH 7 means it is a neutral pH. So what is the molecule that will be affected? It is protein. So there are certain hormones which are present in their inactive forms, like the chymotrypsinogen, the pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is a protein released by the gastric glands within the stomach, and this pepsinogen, it is an inactive hormone. We have to, we have to turn it into an active form. Until unless the pH of the stomach is acidic, this pepsinogen cannot be activated to pepsin. So the pH of the stomach is 1.5 to 2.5 because of the HCl, which is a highly acidic fluid released by the gastric glands. So because of this HCl, the stomach's pH is around 1.5 to 2.5. And this acidic pH will help in converting the pepsinogen to pepsin, and the pepsin can act on the proteins and break them into peptides and amino acids. And if for some reason if the HCl is not released properly, the stomach's pH will be increased. That means it becomes from acidic to neutral. And if the neutral pH persists, then the pepsinogen cannot be activated and the proteins present in the food cannot be digested properly. Now the next question, Kupffer cells are found in. So Kupffer cells means uh, those are macrophages. Okay, Kupffer cells are called or macrophages that are present. Where are the Kupffer cells present? Is it in the liver, brain, kidney or spleen? So the location is liver. Within the liver, these Kupffer cells are present, which are a type of macrophages. So when any bacteria, any pathogens or any toxins enter the liver, these Kupffer cells they will try to engulf those pathogens. They will try to degrade or degenerate those microbes so that the blood can be purified. So one of the functions of the liver is is detoxification. So they will try to clear the blood from the bacteria, pathogens and other toxins. Now cells that secrete hydrochloric acid in the stomach are chief cell, G cells, enterochromaffin like cells. So these are enterochromaffin like cells or parietal cells. What is the answer? Parietal cells. So there are different types of cells present in the stomach. I have mentioned it earlier. The chief cells, they produce pepsinogen, renin and lipase. G cells are endocrine cells which will release a hormone called gastrin. And enterochromaffin like cells, they release a hormone called histamine. Parietal cells release a hydrochloric acid and also Casel's intrinsic factor. And also there is another another type of cell called D cell which release somatostatin. So all the hormones like the gastrin hormone released by the G cells and the histamine released by the enterochromaffin like cells, they will promote the hydrochloric acid secretion. Except the somatostatin, it is the only hormone that inhibits the hydrochloric acid secretion. So these are the list of cells. Mucus cells or goblet cells, they secrete mucus. Parietal cells will secrete the hydrochloric acid along with the Casel's intrinsic factor. Next question, crypts of lubricant are found in. So crypts of lubricant, they are a type of glands present in spleen, intestine, liver or kidney. So these are present in the small intestine. So villi, I have told you about villi, right? At the base of the villi, so here at the base of the villi, the crypts of Lieberkühn will be present. So these glands, they secrete the intestinal juices. Next question. What is the function of the bile juice secreted by the liver? So bile juice, it is a fluid which is synthesized in the liver and then stored in the gallbladder. So whenever there is a requirement, the bile juice from the gallbladder will be released into the small intestine. So what is the purpose of the bile juice? It makes the food alkaline, it makes the food acidic, it breaks down the food, or none of the above. The answer is it makes the food alkaline. So why does the bile is able to make the food alkaline? So bile is an alkaline fluid. Okay, it is an alkaline fluid. Because of this, when it enters the digestive tract, it will be mixed with the food and it will make the food alkaline. So when the chyme in the stomach, so chyme is chyme is the partially digested food. It is mixed with all the hydrochloric acid. So when the chyme enters the small intestine, it is acidic in nature. Why? Because of the presence of the hydrochloric acid. So when the bile juice is released into the small intestine along with the pancreatic secretions, these are alkaline fluids, right? They will be mixed with the chyme in the small intestine and they will make the food somewhat alkaline in nature. Now coming to the next question. Name the site for sperm maturation. So earlier what we have learnt, we have learnt about the site of sperm production. It is a seminiferous tubules. So once the sperms are produced, where they will mature? Is it the epididymis, ductus deferens, that is the vas deferens, spermatic cord, or urethra? So what is the answer? It is the epididymis. So once the testis, within the testis, the sperms are produced and they will enter into the epididymis. So this epididymis, it is a coiled structure. It is a long coiled structure which will give time and space for the sperms to mature. So once the sperms are matured, they will enter into the vas deferens and then into the urethra. So it is a site for sperm maturation. And where are the sperms produced? Options: prostate gland, epidermis, vas deferens, and testicles. Answer is testicles. So the seminiferous tubules are present within the testicles, right? So that is why it is the answer. Whereas the vas deferens, it simply transports the sperms to the urethra. Epididymis, it is the site for maturation of the sperms, and prostate gland, it will release certain fluids to the sperms. Okay, it gives the sperms, the semen, it will help in the formation of semen, the prostate gland. Next question. Which of the following glands are present on either sides of the vaginal orifice? So vaginal orifice means it is an opening of the vagina to the outside. So what are the glands present on either sides of that vaginal opening or vaginal orifice? Bartholin's gland, pineal gland, ceruminous gland, or mammary gland. So what is the answer? It is the Bartholin's gland. So Bartholin's gland is also known as vestibular glands. Here these are the vestibular glands. What is their function? They will secrete a clear viscous fluid. So they will secrete a fluid on some mucus which will help in keeping the vulva, that is the external reproductive female reproductive tract, moist. So they will help in keeping the reproductive tract moist. Next question. Which of the following provides passage for the menstrual flow? So menstrual flow, it is the shredded of endometrial lining and also the unfertilized ovum. So these will be they will come out of the female body as the menstrual flow. And what provides the passage for this menstrual flow? vagina, vulva, clitoris, or mons pubis? The answer is vagina. So here I will show you. This is the mons pubis, and here somewhere here the clitoris will be present, and which will provide the passage. It is the vagina. So vagina provides a passage for the menstrual flow, and also it receives the or it accommodates the male's penis during copulation. And also another thing, it serves as the birth canal at the time of delivery of the baby. Next question. The first menstrual flow is called as. So what is the first menstrual flow? So when a female experiences menstrual flow for the first time, what it is called? Menopause, menstruation, menarche, or ovulation? What is the answer? It is menarche. So menarche. Menstruation, first time it is known as menarche, and the later times it is known as menstruation. So each time the female experiences menstrual flow, it is menstruation, but the first time it is known as menarche. Menopause means the menstrual flow will be ceased. Okay, the menstruation doesn't occur anymore, so that phenomena is known as menopause. Ovulation means it is a process of release of the ovum from the ovaries into the fallopian tube, that is known as ovulation. Next question, which of the following can lead to menstrual cycle? So what will lead to the menstrual flow? What will lead to the menstrual cycle? Fertilization of the egg, unfertilized egg, improper sleep, or study pressure? So what is the answer? Unfertilized egg. So if when the egg is released into the fallopian tube, if the sperm comes in contact with the egg will be fertilized and a zygote will be formed, which will be attached to the uterus. But if the sperms, if copulation doesn't occur, if the sperms doesn't come in contact with the ovum will not be fertilized. And that ovum, there is no need for the ovum to be in the body. It has to be eliminated out of the body. So along with the endometrial lining, the unfertilized ovum, it will be eliminated out in the form of menstrual flow, menstrual blood. Next question, which pituitary hormone peak during the luteal phase? Luteal phase. So during luteal phase, which is the hormone that is present in its peak concentrations? LH hormone, that is the luteinizing hormone, or follicle stimulating hormone, both LH and FSH, or the progesterone hormone? Answer is progesterone hormone. So during luteal phase, what will happen? The corpus luteum, the Graafian follicle, in the presence of the LH hormone, the Graafian follicle, the remaining cells. So once the oocyte is released into the fallopian tube, the remaining cells of the Graafian follicle, in the presence of luteinizing hormone, they will form the corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum, it will produce the progesterone hormone. So this is how during the luteal phase the progesterone hormone will be present in its peak levels. Next, the process of egg formation in the females is known as spermatogenesis, oogenesis, spermatocyte, or spermatozoa. So what it is? Oogenesis. So the egg formation is known as oogenesis. From the oogonium, the formation of the Graafian follicle and the oocyte, that process is known as oogenesis. Spermatogenesis means it is the process of formation of the sperms. So these are the questions under the reproductive system and the digestive system. And we will try to discuss some more MCQs of different topics of HAP in another session. Thank you.